Good morgen. Jeg heter Leif Spurk. Jeg bor i Suttons Bay, Michigan og Odda, Norge. Vi har i dag på learn norsk. And today we're going to learn about the time. A little bit about myself here. I've been making videos on and off for several years, and I've spent about a year in Norway. My grandfather was born in Norway, lived in Norway most of his life. When I was living, he lived in Norway half the year, in the United States half the year. These are all antiques from his house in Røros. Røros, say it with some oomph there, with the accent which we learn about when we learn the alphabet in Norway. So I'm doing some new videos now after being back from Norway. I've spent 6 months there. The first time really just enveloped in the culture for long periods of time, communicating directly with people as I bought a building, and I'm starting making my artwork there in a town called Odda, which is in West Norway, in a county called Hordaland, near Bergen and Haugesund and Stavanger, and it's off the Hardangerfjord, and then it's even in a more little smaller, teeny, narrow little fjord called the Surfjord, and it's a very beautiful mountainous fjord, waterfalls, glaciers, part of Norway. That's just amazing to be there and have this business that I'm starting. And learning Norwegian is something that I must. Lære norsk is something that I must do. So I like to think about Albert Einstein's when I'm trying to learn Norwegian and thinking about this whole endeavor for the rest of my life to be part of Norway, and in this very very real life way living there. Being a citizen someday is my plan. Albert Einstein said, "You never fail unless you stop trying." So learning Norwegian can be challenging. You might feel like you're not learning anything. All I can say is that you gotta keep trying. Try an online course. Go to Norway. Do not be afraid of using Google Translator. Norwegians sometimes will say things to you about how you're using the Norwegian translator. Don't let that intimidate you. Don't let that make you feel like it's not working for you. Always try to use a translator if you're learning about what it says. On Instagram, what people are saying. You're going to learn something from doing that. Learn the basics first. I'd highly advise you to learn the basics. Use YouTube videos. Get an online course. Try to speak with people maybe a little bit online, but people are busy, so just understand that. Norwegians, for the most part, all speak English, especially the 40-year-olds and under. They're very fluent in English, so we just know that. And many Norwegians are used to dealing with lots of different people from different cultures of Europe and all over the world, because it's a very beautiful place where people visit, and there's tourism there, so people need to learn Norwegian just to have a common language to communicate by, for business and for relations. So today we're going to learn about the time. Like I said, it's really important to learn the basics about time first. So one of the first things is good to know are just some basic time kind of related words. Even though we don't use these words very much when we're talking about telling the time, they're still just gets you thinking about time. And they're just good words to kind of get into your vocabulary. A lot of them you probably already know. En dag, I night, en morgen, en kveld, I tid, en time, et minut, I klokka. So this is, en dag is a day, I natt is a night, En morgen, a morning. En kveld, a evening. A tid, a time. En time, a hour. En minuut, a minute. A klokka, a time. Okay. Klokka will be the word that we use when we're telling someone the time or talking about the specific time. A couple other things that's good to know. You probably, if you're familiar at all with Norway, you might be thinking about how you think that Norway has the 24-hour clock, or as it's called in the U.S. a lot, military time. In Norway, they call it the 24-hour clock, and it's used and it's not used. So it's something. Don't get worried about it. It's just something you kind of figure out. Maybe when you're writing words down, they don't have the AM or PM, so you have to write it down using the numbers, 24-hour clock numbers. But when you speak it, you don't speak the 24-hour clock numbers because you just kind of know what time you're talking about. In most situations, for instance, if it's 2 or klokka 2, and most people are sleeping at klokka 2, so you just generally everyone knows when you say klokka 2, you're talking about 2 in the afternoon. That's kind of how it works. So there's kind of that gray area where maybe people are awake and not, so it's something you just kind of learn about and decide upon. But no one's going to criticize you if you say things, and no one's going to correct you usually. Sometimes they might if you use the 24-hour clock when speaking. Like if you were to say klokka 14 or klokka 15, no one's going to correct you, but it's something you learn how it works. That's okay. So we need to know the basic numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, or 6. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then we have 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, there we go. I'm getting better at that. Next thing we need to know when it comes to the time is, how do you say what time is it in Norwegian? Hva klokka? What time is it? Hva klokka? Okay. So we want to speak in complete sentences if at all possible. So in order to in order to make a complete sentence, we need to say it is whatever time it is. So we say den klokka. Klokka is feminine. Okay, this is where you might get a little thinking that you're getting overloaded with information. The feminine and masculine words in Norwegian are all different. There's no real good way to figure out if one is feminine or masculine, so you just have to learn it. So klokka is feminine, so you use den, which means den klokka. It is klokka 2. Okay? So let's do den. If someone asks you hva klokka, you can say den 3. It is 3. Oops, it is 3. Den 3. It is 3. Okay. So let's just go through den klokka 3, den klokka 4, den klokka 5, den klokka 6. Hva klokka? Den klokka. Den klockan 7, den är klockan 8, den är klockan 9, den är klockan 10, den är klockan 11, den är klockan 12. Okay, those are just, now let's get a little bit more specific, okay? Okay, so when you're telling the time, there's two words you need to know. That is på, and over. So, let's go, let's do 2 o'clock. Den är klockan 2. So if it's 5 after 2, what we say in Norwegian is den är 5 over 2, which is basically you're saying 5 past 2. 5 over 2. 10 over 2. Kvart over 2. Kvart over 2. Okay. Now, if it's 3:20 in English, United States, we say 3:20. In Norwegian, we say den är klockan 10 på halv 3. 10 på halv 3. So what you're saying is it's 10 to halfway to 3. So it's 2, but we're working our way to 3, right? It's 2 o'clock and it's going to be 3 o'clock. So it's 10 på 2 halfway to 3. So you're thinking ahead. You're thinking that you want to get halfway to 3 or when you're thinking about the times after. So let's go to 2:25. Den är klockan 5 på halv 3. 5 to halfway to halfway to 3. 2:30 would be den är halv 3. It's halfway. Den är klockan halv 3. It is klockan halv 3. Halfway to 3. Okay. Den är klockan 10 over halv 3. Den är klockan 10 over halv 3, which means it's den är klockan 10 to, it's 10 over, or excuse me, it's 10 to halfway. It's hard to explain. It's basically it's 5 over halfway to 3. So excuse me, it's fem over halv 3. This would be t over halv 3. T over halv 3. This would be kvart over halv 3. Kvart over halv 3. This means it's 15. It's quarter to half. It's quarter to 3. Den är klockan kvart på 3. Den klockan 10 på 3. Den klockan 4 på 3. Klockan 3. Okay, so let me just show you how this looks here. So we have den 3, or den klockan 3. Den klockan 13:05. Den klockan 5:03. Den klockan 10:03. Den kvart 3. Den kvart över 3. Den 10 på halv 4. So again, 10 minutes to halfway to 4. So you're thinking halfway, thinking in halves. Den 5 på halv 4. Den halv 4. Den 10 over. Den 10. This is supposed to, excuse me, this is wrong. It's den. Actually, I left one out. That's the problem. So it's den 5 over halv 4. Den 10 over halv 4 is den kvart på 4. Den 10 på 4. Den 5 på 4. Den 4. So that's time for you, and it's something that you just got to keep practicing. And once you master it, having mastered that time, knowing you can just say it and kind of think that way, think about how the time works in those words, then you really start to learn. You open your mind up into learning more Norwegian. So just keep practicing it, doing kind of what I'm doing here. Keep going over and over it in your mind, and that's what I would suggest to do. And I'll see you next time.